Last month we put out a video focusing on various Tarnished in the Lands Between and speculated on their history with the small amount of in-game lore we had access to. Today we're going to open that book once more for a second look at the Tarnished Files. We will be discussing Riley the Idle, Recusant Henricus, Blackguard Big Bogart, and Lionel the Lionhearted, in an attempt to further flesh out all of the players in the Lands Between, and see if we can draw connections between these individual Tarnished journeys and the greater story of the Lands Between. Elden Ring's lore goes deep into the history of these lands, but we think it's just as important to understand the stories of those living in this world, and this series is one more way to explore that. Before we open up this tome, we want to ask you to take a moment to hit that subscribe button. We love making Elden Ring content for you and hope you enjoy our other experiments here at Square Table Gaming. So if you like what we're making, please help us out with YouTube's algorithm by liking, subscribing, and hitting that bell. The better we play with YouTube, the more the channel grows, the more content we can create for you. With that out of the way, let's start this episode of the Tarnished Files with Riley the Idle. While some Tarnished in the Lands Between can be encountered in multiple areas, both as summons and invaders, Riley's an exception. The only way we ever meet this character is by invading his world during the Volcano Manor questline. It would be easy to push this Tarnished aside and assume he's no one special. After all, he only exists as fodder for the Recusants, right? But if we know anything about the Manor, it's that they don't target random Tarnished. Everyone they send you to assassinate seems to play a big part as a cooperator, someone who helps other Tarnished on their journey to follow grace and become Elden Lord, but not Riley. We can gather why the Manor may want him dead through clues associated with his armor and the items he drops. Our first clues come from the Confessor set. Each piece tells us it's worn by church confessors. The churches outside of the Lands Between, dedicated to the teachings of the Two Fingers, send confessors out to follow the guidance of grace. The confessors are loyal servants to the Two Fingers, ready to hunt down and quietly dispose of their enemies. So right off the bat, we know that Riley was an assassin of sorts for the Two Fingers, possibly one hunting those who strayed from their teachings, like the Recusants. His weapons reinforce this notion, as he uses Crepus's Black Key crossbow and the Scorpion Stinger. Crepus's crossbow is the weapon of Crepus, who served the Two Fingers in the shadows of the Round Table as the head confessor, and the Scorpion Stinger is a dagger fashioned from a great scorpion's tail, glistening with scarlet rot, a ceremonial tool used by heretics, crafted from the relic of the sealed outer god. Riley also uses Black Key bolts, which are used in Crepus's Black Key crossbow, an assassin's tool of exquisite craftsmanship. The intricate spiral tip bores deep, injecting scarlet rot far into the flesh of its target. So it seems the confessors were allowed to dabble in heresy if it meant destroying enemies of the Fingers. The fact that Riley uses these items has led to a popular theory that he actually is Crepus, simply using a fake name in order to keep his movements secret. This can be further speculated as upon death he drops the Crepus's vile talisman, which is described as a small mysterious bottle with a dark mist sealed within. Eliminates all sounds made by the wearer during movement. A ritual implement used by Round Table Hold assassins. There was a time when Tarnished who had strayed from guidance feared nothing more than utter silence. While the idea that Riley is Crepus may hold water, we can't say for sure we think this is true. After all, the Confessors were a group of Tarnished who carried out these assassinations on behalf of the Fingers. It's likely they all used the same armor, weaponry, and talismans as members of their order. Perhaps Riley was the last true confessor in the Lands Between, and that's why we were sent to kill him. Next up we have Recusant Henricus, possibly the worst spy in the Lands Between. This large man wielding a large mace can be encountered north of the Stormhill Shack. While defeating him will yield the Hammer Talisman, that's not important when looking at who he was as a character. We know from his title that he is a Recusant, but one look at his armor makes it abundantly apparent where his loyalty lies. He wears the Eye Surcoat, which is described as a brown surcoat draped over chainmail. The insignia emblazoned on the front marks out the wearer as the eyes and ears of Sir Gideon Ofnir, the All-Knowing. So clearly, Henricus is not loyal to the recusants at all. He works for Gideon Ofnir, keeping tabs on the recusants of the Lands Between, and likely Rykard himself. This surcoat can be found after we defeat Rykard inside of his arena. Henricus was clearly one of the Tarnished that Rykard decided to devour in order to grow his own strength, but we believe the fact that his surcoat was left behind was very telling. It's likely that Rykard knew from the start that Henricus didn't believe in the mission of the recusants, or turning against the Erdtree. When we find the surcoat, what it says to us is that Rykard finally decided Henricus was ripe enough to be devoured, and upon meeting him, Rykard stripped the symbol of his true master from his body, and made him one with himself, just as he did to all those devoured before. Really, Henricus has no one to blame but himself. What kind of spy wears the well-known symbol of their leader directly on their chest for all to see? We're going to go out on a limb here and say Henricus was not very bright. Blackguard Big Bogart is an interesting case, as he presents himself as nothing but a petty thug, but harbors some deeper aspirations that he never truly articulates to us. We speak with him after he's stolen Raya's necklace, and should we choose to get it back for her peacefully, Bogart warms up to us right away. He loves his prawns and is happy to sell them to us, saying he's never met someone with a taste for prawns he couldn't trust. When we make small talk with him, he says, "You're Tarnished too, ain't ya? Can't you see it then? The guidance of grace, I mean? I can't see it at all no more. Makes no bloody sense anyway. Why some no-name shithead like me gets called to the Lands Between. Cruel bloody joke, you ask me. Maybe something went tits up with it. Maybe it's been broken for a good long time. The Erdtree, I'm saying." So he seems to think very little of himself, but if we follow his quest, we learn more. We can meet Bogart at the outer moat in the royal capital, where he tells us he was once trapped in a gaol with the Dung Eater, and he was forced to watch him perform his curse on his friend. He makes it clear that the Dung Eater is a monster, something we know all too well if we follow his questline. Unfortunately, our friend is fated to endure the same kind of torture he saw performed in the past. When we speak with Bogart again, he says he believes the Dung Eater is nearby, and upon reloading the area, we find Bogart bloodied and tied to a chair, where he says,
"Serves me right. Fucking bloody end. For a jumped up little shit with big ideas. Help me out. Would you, mate? I don't want to get cursed. Just let me die. I don't want to live like this."
He then dies and we receive a seedbed curse. This is immediately followed by the Dung Eater invading us. While Bogart did have a seedbed curse upon him, we believe that by defeating the invading Dung Eater here, we may have saved our friend from the curse. It's known that Dung Eater needs to defile a body after its death to complete his ritual, so by stopping this, maybe we did save Bogart from the fate he dreaded. As a final note, after his death, we also receive the Blackguard's Iron Mask, which tells us it's an iron mask forced onto convicted prisoners, worn by the Blackguard Big Bogart. To Bogart, the mask made him all the more threatening and helped him get what he wanted, but it was also a mirror of his emptiness. So while he acted like he had no big purpose, he felt a deep emptiness that he likely tried to fill with these big ideas he mentioned before his death. Unfortunately, we never get to know what those ideas truly were. Last but not least, we have Lionel, the Lionhearted. We can only encounter him twice throughout Elden Ring, once during the Radahn Festival, and again when we face Fia's champions. We can find his armor when searching the capital city. It's on a bed in a small church alongside the deathbed dress. Every piece of Lionel's armor tells us, when this chivalrous, dauntless knight met Fia, who had been driven from her home, he declared himself to be her father. So we know Lionel took Fia under his protection, making her family, and likely protected her against those who wanted her dead for her heresy against the Golden Order. By finding his armor on a corpse in this church, it begs the question, how could a dead man have helped us during the Radahn Festival? We theorize that he was a projection of Fia's champion, determined to see Radahn's defeat. But why does he want Radahn dead? Unless we defeat Radahn, we can never make our way to the resting place of Godwyn the Golden, meaning Fia could not make it there either. If Lionel is aiding us in battle during this fight, and he's already truly dead, that would mean it's actually Fia trying to help us defeat Radahn, so she can finally make her way to Godwyn. So while we never meet Lionel as a living, breathing Tarnished, we can easily see how his strength influenced the Lands Between, both in his protection of the deathbed companion, and in his help fighting our way through Radahn as one of Fia's champions. The Tarnished throughout Elden Ring really do come in all shapes and sizes, with deep motivations driving them through their quests. There's not a single throwaway character that we've found when it comes to this game. Everyone has a reason for their existence in the overall narrative of the world, and while they may not always add much, it goes to show how deep this world building truly is. If you have a particular character you'd like to see explored in the next Tarnished Files, leave a comment letting us know. Also, tell us if you think there's more to any of the characters we've discussed in this video. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss out on our content. We look forward to seeing you again for more Elden Lore.